definitely hardworking, as is just what Emunala said. Um, is definitely looking at people who definitely like wants to do better for not just themselves, but definitely for their family. And just, oh, another fact of it is definitely being like not being selfish and actually working for your people. Because how I see it is definitely family orientated, being family orientated, grinding throughout even hard times. Definitely taught me not to be selfish in life. Not just to work for me, but to work for other people. Most definitely.
So across board, I think we all have very similar answers, which is the discipline, maintaining the cultures, and just that work ethic that we all have. So, as Ata had mentioned, growing up Seventh Day Adventist, how did faith influence your upbringing positively or negatively? Did it shape your views on identity, relationships, or discipline differently than your peers? I will start with Ata.
Um, yes, I mean, just like how I said previously, um, as a Seventh Day Adventist, growing up, uh, I learned a lot through the AY and then the Pathfinder program. And that kind of helped shape my life up to now. You know, going through the Pathfinder program every day. I mean, not every day. I mean, literally every day you have to make sure say you read your Bible because that's what the Pathfinder law say. Keep the morning watch, right? And then growing up, I used to do a lot of Bible studies with my mom because not me type to up on temper. My mom would testify. Um, and my obi crowd tall those megaphone be at the time said me from preaching ever I want 10. So and I think this is some of the things growing up in an Adventist home, Abuame, and I'm able to, kind of also help teach others, the Bible because I was taught, the Bible growing up. And, and in terms of identity, it helped me, I be able to identify myself, say, who I am from the other, denomination, like, Pentecost and stuff like that. And I'm able to, if I go anywhere, my friends know, so, oh, Atadia, he's not going to drink, he's not going to eat pork. He won't do this on a Saturday. If it's Saturday, don't call him because he's not going to, show up. So, these are the things that growing up in the Seventh-day Adventist house, Abuame, to be able to identify myself, say I'm different from other people in so many ways. Growing up playing soccer and stuff like that, I've mingled myself with different kinds of group of people that uses drugs to play sports, people that drink to play sports, people that use other ways to get through training or to get past their training. Growing up in the Seventh-day Adventist and knowing temperance and stuff like that, kind of helped me stay away from all these, products that I know say M1, smoking weed and stuff like that. And I am what me as an individual. And then I'm almost 40. I still look young, thank God. So yes, it has growing up in the Adventist home. It has helped shape my life in so many ways, and also make me able to identify myself as who I am in my Christian journey.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Um, I think so. Growing up in the Adventist household, I think we all kind of have similar backgrounds, but one thing that I do appreciate is the fact that for my parents, as much as they emphasize being Adventist, it was also emphasizing having a personal relationship with God and cultivating that. And so One thing also I appreciated was they never ever stopped me from going to church with other people, and learning about other religions. And my dad would be a testament. I'm very much the annoying person who will let Jehovah's Witness into the house. And I even let Mormons into the house. I like a good discussion. It's very, very bad. But I'm like, why are you letting them? And I'm like, they had something to discuss. But not blocking me off from curiosity was something I appreciated. And so because I was able to ask any questions that I had, I never felt like, in my household at least, that Adventism was being forced on me. And that was something that I really appreciated. And it was a little bit of a culture shock when I met other Adventists, especially non Ghanaian Adventists, because for Adventism is different. It's just a little different. But I really appreciated going up in that. So certain things just became my norm. When it came to like things that we eat, I personally never ever had a cravings for certain things that we're not supposed to eat and all of that. And so I never felt like I had to go out there to try or anything. And so I felt comfortable enough, and I'm already a picky eater, that whether it's in school, whether I'm traveling, whether whatever it is, that I will keep track of what I want to personally attain. And I made sure that when I was going to college, I went out of state for a reason. And that was because I wanted to wake up every morning and choose to go to church. I wanted to prove to myself that it wasn't because of my parents or because I just grew up in an Adventist household that I went to church. And so to me, I appreciate the fact that we made it a lifestyle and not just rituals and whatnot. I was like, oh, this is my everyday life. I'm comfortable with this type of life. And these are the things that I didn't always want to maintain everything that my parents taught me. However, there were certain things that I was like, no, these are things that I want to maintain. And if you have good friends, which I've been blessed to have, again, like as I said, my friends know on the Sabbath, you're just not going to reach me. And it's no longer a conversation of like, oh, it's weird, because I know Muslims who go to the mosque on Friday. So we just know Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know when to book things with different people. And then personally, and I don't do this for a religious reason, but it's just because of the household I live in. We never had alcohol in the house. And so I never had a craving for alcohol, and I've never wanted to try alcohol. And luckily, I've had friends who maintain that. Even if I'm in a situation where there's alcohol all around, they will specifically buy my own thing for me. Be like, oh, apple cider, this one is for Angela. Even when I don't request it. So I've been blessed in such a way where I don't have to be a different way than what I want to be. And even when my friends are a certain way, they support me in that way. And so that's what I appreciate about like my Adventist and like my SDA upbringing, where it still kept me very open minded and still being able to make friends of all walks of life. But I think it has also helped me cultivate me as an individual, that I don't feel like I have to submit to anybody else's ideals.
Beautiful. Thank you, Manuela.
Wow, how to follow that one up. I will say that like being SDA has influenced my upbringing because I have like a very strong moral compass, like Angela and Ty were saying. Like I think from a young age, I knew what I perceived to be like right and wrong, or like how I should move about in the world. But looking at that on the flip side, I do think that I don't know if this is the right word, but I do feel like I was more judgmental. And the reason I say that is, with SDA people, I feel like we have a very strict code, and like we see things as very much black and white. And it wasn't till I was exposed to like my peers in like high school and college, where like, you realize that not everybody has the same frame of reference that you have, but that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. So for example, like if I was younger and somebody came to our church with like tattoos or something, I would immediately write that person off. Like that person can't be a good person. It can't be like the good Christian that like, I'm being taught to be. But as I've grown up, like I've realized that like, some people don't come from the same background as us, but that doesn't mean you should judge them so harshly or just like write them off from the beginning. And that's just, I think, something I've known, particularly in Ghanaian SDA circles. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I was waiting for someone to be real. So I appreciate that. Daryl, go ahead.
All right. Growing up in SDA definitely taught me like what's wrong, what's wrong and what's right. Even from a young age, from my father pushing us to, hey, it's Saturday, let's all go to church, and you start questioning why. Why should I really be going to church? Why should I be going to church? Why should I be going on Saturday when everybody else is going on Sunday? When I was a kid, I definitely asked that question to my dad. I was saying, why do everybody else goes on church on Sunday and we go to church on Saturday? And as growing up, I was still confused. Even like probably when I was around 15, 16, I was definitely very confused. So, but it was the fact that I went out. It wasn't that like I was coerced to do anything like that. I went out and tried to find the truth myself. And finding the truth, it definitely led back to all the teachings I got from the SDA Church. And definitely, SDA was definitely a big factor to me deciding where I was going to go to college, especially, me as an athlete. I was deciding on going to places that weren't even Christian orientated or anything. And I definitely chose the college I went to because one is also, it's half SDA. So, like, it's an Adventist school technically. But at the same time, I went out there just to meet people. And when I definitely went out there, 2,000 miles away from home, I realized like, okay, I was brought up definitely better than most people that are here because you can see you can definitely see the culture change, especially from people that are all across the world. Definitely from my school because my school, not everybody in that school is from that state. So definitely growing up as did just it taught me about my morals, taught me about my independency, and it just taught me definitely that I had to go out there and look for my journey, not just got listen to the journey that my parents were called to. So yeah.
Thank you so much all for your answers. I do think it's very encouraging to hear that SDA shaped you guys' identity in a very positive way. So our next question, which we're going to tie back to some of the conversations we had this week, we talked about the conversations our parents avoid. So we're we're getting into it. What was one topic you wish your parents had been more open about? I'm gonna pick you. Go ahead.
Ah, um, that's a tough one. I mean, honestly, growing up I didn't, my parents moved by while we were still young. I would say not young, but I was probably 12, 13 years old when my parents, came here. So it's like, um, maybe 14, yeah, around that age. And I don't know. I will let them, kind of answer that question, and then I'll pick something up.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Angela, go ahead.
Um, so I think everything is too much of an exaggeration. Um, Mainly because my mom was very open to questions, and so is Mr. Jenny. Depends on the mood. But it was understanding the time and place to come up with questions. Anybody who knows me knows I have a lot of questions. And they would be open if we're in Bible study. You can ask any questions you want there. However, you couldn't question anything else sometimes. You had to pick the right mood. And so I would say was some of the main things, obviously, which got better as I got older, was how relationships actually work, and not just like dating, but I mean like friendships and all the different sides. Because I do think that a lot of times African parents get to, oh, avoid the person who smokes and drinks. Yeah, the kobolo, and that's about it. Don't join gangs. avoid bad friends. But outside of just thinking church friends are good people automatically, sometimes they don't always give the best guidance on actually being able to evaluate who true friends are and what that constitute and how for you to even be a good friend.
Right?
I think other topics would be questioning Adventism. Honestly, I do think that we automatically seal off if the kid asks anything about, oh, I why don't we wear earrings or this? Like a lot of those we automatically like because we don't, you need to just, and so being more open to kind of having conversations when kids are just like very curious, because I do think that when my parents eventually opened up and allowed me to ask anything and we will have very open dialogue, that's when I felt more comfortable and confident in what I believe. And when I will be able to talk to other people, I didn't feel like I was just regurgitating things my parents wanted me to regurgitate. And so I definitely do think that these are some of the main things.
Yeah, so then let me pick it back on what Angela was saying.
Okay, go
Um,
ahead.
so I remember it's mine would be, explaining more Adventism in, growing up in Ghana, no, we didn't have it wouldn't even occur to you to, question why you're not you going to church on Saturday. You just go, okay? And and then how say not, people have the freedom, not to go to church because you can go outside. Growing up, no, there wasn't anything like that. If you don't go to church, you're not sleeping in the house that day. So I remember one time I was playing for I was selected to go play for the Ashanti regional soccer team, right? And then we had to leave on a Saturday. Mind you, the game was not on Saturday, but we have to leave on a Saturday. And this is my dream. Every player that plays in Ghana at that time was their dream, or playing school, like junior high school, is your dream to play in the regionals, right? And I was lucky I got selected. And then we had to leave on Saturday. And then the car is ready. My coach, came home. We're ready to go. And then my mom was like, Daddy, come on. My mom was like, nope, my mom banning. And then the coach was like, oh no, no. And then my mom was like, nope, my mom banning. This is that this I do I should miss out be seen there, because but the funny thing is she never explained to me why. I tried to explain to her like, okay, again, the coach was begging, they need me to be there. And then this lady was like, me ma me ba no nkɔ into quite me that whatever. And then so I ended up not getting the chance to go play because, you know, so these are some of the things that I wish our parents would have, opened up more to us, like why we were not allowed to do certain things on a Saturday, like why we don't cook on the Saturday. And I think I know these are some of the things we talked about in our previous panel discussion. But these are some of the things that yeah, we're growing up and you didn't even have you wouldn't have the courage, to approach your parents that you explain these things to you because they think that it's a must, something that you need to do because your mom is doing it. Your mom is going to church on the Saturday. There's no way me growing up, then I'm not sleeping in the house or you're not eating that day. That was the rule. So these are some of the things that, and I know everybody when you know Ghana, I know will understand this or will kind of share the same feelings that our parents didn't explain why we were supposed to go to church on Saturday. We just followed them to church, but what kept us in the church was the activities are not, which was the other positive aspect of it. But the main thing is we didn't know why we were supposed to go to church on a Saturday, which I think more Bianca, some of us maybe some of us wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, you probably would have let go of your grudge that you're holding. Okay,
Uh,
Manila, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna answer this question based off of Monday's discussion and those topics. So I think what I would have chosen is for my parents to talk more about finances. Um, and I think it's, it's twofold. Like I could have asked some questions, but in my perspective, I didn't want my parents to think that like what they're doing is inadequate. But at the same time, I felt like it would have helped me to understand what was going on. I think I could, I could assume some things. For example, if somebody like didn't have a job at the moment, I'd know like, okay, like I'm not going to be doing as much. But when both my parents had jobs and I still, didn't get the chance to do some of the things I wanted or, get some of the items I saw that other kids my age had. I think, having those conversations would have helped me like one, not like second guess my parents. And then two, I felt like, it would have been very easy to fall into the trap of, other alternative ways of gaining the material things you need. So I definitely had peers who like, decided to go the whole like shoplifting route or scamming route. And I think if we just had like, or if their parents maybe had these like open conversations of like, hey, like this is what we're doing because this is what we can afford and like these are our plans or like these are our priorities. Because I definitely think there was a time where I was like, I don't understand why I can't do like certain like sports things or like summer camps, but I can go to camp meeting. But that's a story for another day.
Ooh, T. All right, Daryl, go ahead.
Okay. I would say from the topics is most like what I definitely seen, and I can speak for some people, is definitely the talk about mental health. I feel like mental health is a very very strong thing. Even not even just for a 7 Day Adventist or for a person that's in youth or a young adult. Not even that, but it's a topic that should be spoke about for everyone. Um, I feel like most likely as a community, and this is not anyone's fault. Like I just feel like we mostly shun away to talk about mental health because let's say like you have a kid, like you're a kid and you go up to your parents and say, "Hey, mom, I feel depressed. I haven't been happy in a while." They're gonna look at you like, "What?" Yeah. So it's definitely like it's definitely should be a talk about more. I feel like just exposing that and exposing like the resources can definitely help out a lot of people because you may never know who's being affected by mental health because it's a silent, I wouldn't say a silent disease, but it's a silent effect that goes on for everyone. So yeah, most definitely.
Can I add one thing?
Mhm, go ahead.
I think another thing that parents, I think all around need to do better at is actually talking about their life experiences and the mistakes that they have made in life. And I think that will go a long way to, again, help answer a lot of the questions. Because a lot of times when you're a kid, you think you know everything. And parents will be like, oh, what we see sitting down is, better than what you can see standing up. And we get that. We absolutely do. However, when you have that adult that talks to you about their life experiences, the mistakes they have made, we know every African parent was not first in class, but you can use that and be like, because I wasn't first in class, look at my life now. Do you want to end up like me? So being able to be real with your kids to a certain point, not saying you have to expose every single dirty secret you have, but being real with your kids sometimes and then telling them you have made mistakes, giving them many examples so that they can learn from that. Because sometimes we always put up the perfect parent facade. And I think that only makes it harder for us to maintain a relationship with our kids.
Agreed. I think we have a question that talks about what you just mentioned, Angela. So when we get to that question, you guys can add more to it. But just to piggyback off the last question, so now that you guys are older, have you gained a deeper understanding of why your parents raised you the way they did? And in what ways has that helped you extend more grace to them? Okay.
Um, I mean, it's the message I've been sending across, this whole time that um, it, I couldn't thank my parents, because I don't know where I would have been now, because I know like most of my friends that I grew up with that were not Adventist, or even some of them were Adventist, but maybe I don't know what you know happened in their life along the road. But I'm still here. I'm still a 7 Day Adventist. I'm still going strong. So I think our parents have done a lot for us that has helped shape our lives. And then I think we should appreciate them, because if it wasn't for their the way they brought us, especially from Ghana, because I know here it's a little bit lenient because Untimin Shakrano, a lot, but back home in Ghana, we thought, they were being too strict, and not, have allowing us to do things that our friends were doing, not allowing us to enjoy life as our friends were enjoying. But growing up to now, when you look back and then you look at those friends that have the freedom to do whatever they want. Some of them, look older than you. Some of them, are dead. Some of them are, not even dead. Maybe not in the state that we are right now. You know what I mean? So I think my parents a lot, for bringing me up the way they did.
Thank you. Angela?
Um, I will say that the one thing would be I understand them because I understand that some parts were out of trying to prepare me for survival and other parts were also fear. The only thing I would disagree with Miss Tata is I felt like I had way more freedom in Ghana, mainly because they felt more secure and safe. Because it's a town that everybody knows me, all of that. I can go out, Kuchinsa, nobody will care. Where in the US, I wasn't allowed to play outside for the most part. And so I think for me, being the eldest also helps with giving grace to my parents. Because my little sisters will tell y'all, you sound like mom. I'm like, no, I don't. But sometimes we just end up turning into our parents sometimes because it's not a zero-sum game, right? And I know I always complain that, there's certain rules that were there for me that don't exist for them. So I definitely do think that growing up, when you are in that little bubble, you only think about the things that are restricting, and you don't necessarily see all the things that you do have the capability of, you do have the openness for. And I think growing up and reflecting back and like having these experiences, you end up being like, no, actually, some of these things were good. And I do appreciate having some of the structure, not all of it, but a good chunk of it.
Thank you. And I feel like I personally resonate with that because I always tell my sister that her and I have different parents, just to let her know. But thank you for that, Manuela. Go ahead.
I would say I definitely agree with Angela where I understand like the fear that they have because I've seen what like being led astray can like the effect that it can have on people, and like seeing my peers, some of them who like I don't know fell astray like early in middle school or in high school, or like later on when we went into college, being like a country that they weren't born in. I definitely understand why they did the things that they did, but I will say I don't think that you should raise kids in the US from a fear perspective because it just ends up hurting you more when they're not being as open with you. I will also say that I also understand because I've seen like white privilege in action, and our parents just like if I got in trouble, some of the way my white peers got in trouble, I just know they couldn't save me. Like they don't have those type of resources. Um, so I understand it from that perspective as well. One thing I used to complain about when I was younger was the fact that my mom was always home. I was like, please go out and be like these other parents, just leave for 16 hours, And now like I understand like why she didn't like, work herself to the bone and like, you know, go live somewhere far away and like, you know, do a live-in thing because she wanted to like raise me and like be there for me. So I do appreciate that aspect. And yeah, you know, I'm thankful for that now.
We love that introspection. Daryl, go ahead.
Um, Definitely a deeper understanding that I realized from my parents was how hard they tried, definitely, and also just growing up, like definitely noticing that I was different, and just like Manila said, uh, if something were happen to me, hence like someone that was white, I definitely know that I would not be getting out that situation. So especially like growing up here, but with Ghanaian parents, it was definitely. I noticed that it was definitely hard for them as I was growing up because trying to raise a kid in a new culture, in a new environment is definitely a tough task. But I definitely understand the reason why, a lot of things that, oh, you have to study, oh, you have to do this. I was not allowed to do a lot of things. And realizing it once I went out to the world, went out by myself, definitely going to college, I noticed I do a lot of things that these people don't do. And hence they get mostly a lot of my friends, not a lot of my, a lot of my people that I know were killed, were arrested, or is just in a very very bad spot in life. So definitely, especially in 18, black males is actually statistically proven by the University of Alabama uh, that 40% of black males by the time they're 18 usually are in jail or dead. So definitely growing up, I realized some of the things that I was not allowed to do was to protect me. Uh, some of it was kind of mongering, like, but I definitely accepted the way that my parents raised me because it grew me up to be a better person morally and spiritually. So yeah, it was definitely that.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Next question, going back to what Angela had kind of alluded to, how can today's Ghanaian parents create space for better communication while still honoring their values and faith? So I'll give the panelists some time to think about that question, and I just want to tell the audience that feel free to post questions in the chat. We will try to address those at the end. But go ahead. Oh, I don't know if you heard me, but you can go ahead.
Well, I think we all know our Ghanaian parents, right? There are some things that they, you know, shy away from. Um, and I think it's because of our culture. You know, there are some certain things that you're not allowed to talk about. There are some body parts that you're not supposed to name them. I mean, that's their name, right? So I don't know why they feel so, you know, kind of taboo, you know, to name certain things. But I think if they be more open, you know, to the kids or to their children in every aspect of life, you know, just like Daryl said, mental health, right? Just like Manuela said, financial, you know, issues, you know, and also in terms of our identity, you know, because I know most of our kids or most of our members, like especially the females, when they're going out, they put on jewelries, right? They and then the parents just watch them do it, you know, go outside. They don't, you know, tell them anything. That's also a form of identity. So parents also need to be able to sit their kids down, open up to them, let them know, because sometimes, most of the times, you know, I say, percent, I saw them and they yet certain things, right? But how much time do we spend at church? And I believe that the parents should spend more time teaching their kids about all these things, rather than say will be in the lecture Obama. So open up to your kids, regardless of whatever conversation or regardless of whatever they're going. Because sometimes Ghanaian parents, they don't even know, they don't read mood. They just see you as who you are. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know when to talk to you about certain things. These are things that, as your Ghanaian parents, they should pick up those cues and know when to talk to their kids, regardless of the situation. And yeah, that's not the right time to pull the kid somewhere and talk to them at that point. At that point, Uncle it's too late to have that conversation at that instant. And we should know when to approach certain situations, and also when to say certain things at certain places. But the most important thing is that we should read the man mood. Like Asima Mebeka Akrana, how is the Akrana going to react to Asima Mebeka and then approach it? I think so. If that happens, now it will eliminate the fact that oh, and stuff like that. Say watching me and other ways, because we don't know what the kid or the Akrana is going through at that particular moment. And now Okofa, I said at that particular moment. Now, the kid is going to react according to how they're feeling at that particular moment. So it will be nice if the parents are able to read us, like what we're going through at that particular moment, mentally, physically, and stuff like that. And then financial issues, parents should be more engaged with their kids' financial, situations. More men cry, how they don't like. I'm not saying our parent can't tell me no, but at least try to talk to them. Know what their weaknesses in terms of spending, and try to help them in those certain areas. And I think that about why.
Thank you, Angela.
So yeah, piggyback off that one, no, because of AF for African parents in my country, kakratri brofo. Yeah, baby, yeah. But I will say, while I kasa about parenting out of fear, no, I think say it's me changes our parenting no, to parent out of love and understanding. Odoni abotre, patience. I think I would give that as a number one recommendation. The reason being, I'll never forget this conversation. Um, I was way younger, and I'm in kitchen, and I bent over, and my back hurt. But comment I mean make it, and they say, "Oh, Miss Sisi, yeah." And Mr. Johnny was like, "No, oh yeah, call I wouldn't Sisi." And I was like, but that's what I was taught that is called. What do you want me to tell you? And I get his point that he's making, but I'm saying that to say, sometimes, for parents, we block certain avenues of conversation, right? Oh, we don't talk about this. Oh, don't talk like that. And sometimes we focus so much on how the kid is speaking, and sometimes not what the kid is talking about, the emotion they're trying to, send your way. Sometimes, maybe Akolani gets you into trouble and all of those things. We spend more time being angry at the kid instead of getting to the root of the problem. Bullied, right? And I will put this out there. We've seen a huge hike in suicides among Ghanaian homes, right? And even in Ghanaian Christian homes. And knowing how to talk to our kids, it's gonna be very, very important. And along with say, yeah, parented out of love, and they abotreno. I will say, knowing how we talk to our kids, complimenting. Sometimes for a lot of African parents, ubet me the 100 abba. You got 100 on an exam into extra credit way. And there is always that goalpost. Oh, I bet somebody else got first in class. Time and I'm your age, and I'm the mimi chamax and kwa. And there's never a compliment. There's never a way to, get there. It's, you never incentivize a kolanese on work hard because me mama and papa there, no matter ne may be our many so, right? But and we compare that to other kids where Minyabi, I got money. Minyasi, I got this. And it's like, wait, hold up. So incentivizing, say, akwalano nani beje, say, obey yadi. Compliment them when they do well, right? Because we focus on every single time they do bad. And then sometimes we forget to compliment them when they do well. Along with incentivizing, yes, something I have observed in Ghanaian household, gift giving. Yes, I understand a lot of households don't want to celebrate Christmas. Understandable. But there's so many other instances you can give a gift. There's so many family holidays you people can make yourself, right? And other excuses you can make to give presents to your kid. But I think that sometimes we focus so much on going against a lot of the regular holidays and the things that we America for but that sometimes we forget to just gift our kids outside of the necessities here for everyday life. So I think those would be a few of the things that I would say if we're able to incorporate Enona ebe buying a lot, especially when we're able to discipline out of love and not out of anger.
Thank you so much, Angela. Well, go ahead.
Beautifully said, because I was gonna go off how African parents react when, especially like for us, when we're in school and we're learning about having, a safe space to have communication. The one thing we talk about is like your tone and the way that you're speaking. I think the shortest advice I could give to African parents is don't say the first thing that comes to your mind. Like sometimes it's okay to swallow the information and then assess what you want to say and then come back and say it. No one is telling you to change your faith when, your child comes up and says something wild to you. No one is saying that, but you guys would just react and oh yeah, say that. Just chill and come back and say, okay, why? Why do you feel like this? Or like, why would you take this step? Something simple that I know even the kindergartners go through. When you bring back your report card and sometimes it's not what they want to see, let's have a conversation. We don't have to like, and or why don't you know this? And like, just have a conversation. Maybe you're upset. They got an F. You can't deal with that in the moment. Cool. Take some time, come back and address how we got to that point. My second thing is expressing love. It's okay to tell your kids you love them. I remember the first time I don't want to say this because he's on here, but freshman year of college, I got to school and my parents had called me one time and I was talking to my dad and then he said, "I'm proud of you. I love you." The way I looked at the phone, I said, "Who replaced Mr. Danso?" I was so shook, but it's like, we go to church and like every adult on here, you guys will talk about the unconditional love that Jesus has for us. Why can't you talk about the unconditional love that you have for your children to your child? Yeah, let's sit with that.
Thank you,
No,
thank you,
I
thank
think
you.
you're in trouble today.
Please take all answers very, lightly and but importantly as well, because I think all that everyone is saying so far is very important. Okay, Daryl, go ahead.
To piggyback what she just said, definitely loving and loving each other. Even in the Bible, it says you must have love for your children as how God has loves for you. You know, definitely sharing that love with your children, understanding, and because maybe that might be the only "I love you" that child's gonna ever and that child's gonna get. So definitely pushing out love and pushing out kindness, pushing out all this caring, pushing out caring characteristics as a like a parent is a very important thing, especially to a child. But I'll say my personal thing is definitely it would definitely be accepting a lot of the choices that your child are making, especially when they're going to that age where they want to explore, they want to know the stuff, or they want to do things that is not really in culture. Especially growing up here, um, there's like it's a new culture. Kids can do whatever and get luckily get successful off of it. Definitely. I'll speak as an example. When I first started wrestling, I remember I didn't even tell my parents that I was starting it. The moment I got home, And my dad was like, "Why did you stay after school?" I told him. He was like, "No, stop." So it was definitely it was a how can I say it? It was like a shock to me because it's not like he didn't want to accept it, because like it was just the fact of, oh, this could happen to you, this could happen to you. Installing fear in children, especially like our children, is gonna limit them for what they want to do, because you may never know, stuff could happen. Like if you install that fear, what happened if he find like, I don't know, where you say, hey, don't be a singer, it'll be bad for you, you're never gonna make it. Then out of nowhere, the kid is one of the best singers in the world. You may never know. So definitely pushing your child to go do things differently, because as the time go on, there's going to be different things that kids are going to do. There's going to be different ideas that pop up. Will, you know, just different things in general. Will can like, you may never know the kid's success in that. If I had listened to my dad that day, I would never be in the position I would be in right now. So it was definitely being more accepting, and definitely being loving and caring and supportive, but not accepting everything at the same time. Like for an example, let's say, hey, I'm like, if you feel like something is shady, you should ask them why. Definitely like propose like how you feel about it, and it's definitely that. But morally, just accepting what your child wants to do and guiding them throughout that process. Like my parents don't know anything about the sport I do, but they're also supportive. Hey, you're gonna do great. Have faith in God, and you're gonna do great. So definitely that.
Thank you so much to all our panelists. That is the end of our questions. We do have a couple questions in the chat and also that have been sent privately to me. So we are going to start the Q&A piece. And these questions I'm just going to throw. So if any of you want to like go ahead and take a stab at the answer, go ahead. So the first question is, what do you all expect from African parents? So whoever wants to take it, go ahead.
I think say me my pound more about more as a question. But I think uh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I think that just like how Manuela and Angela and Daryl has been saying, um, love. You know what I mean? The parents should, Ghanaian parents should be willing to be there, for their kids, regardless. Um, and Chronicle Overcall, other events, you see Abrofo no Mama, Akatafo no Mama, Unsubokum Ghana ni won't be an it's always been like that, and I think the Manuel and I said Angela that can be about, you know, our parents did that because they had to, make it up by working, to support, to support the family, which is understandable. But it gets to a point that just one day, so they go support Obama. I don't think that's gonna, kill you or anything. And I think that we should show love. Um, Omubu baby say, "Oh, he need to know." But I mean, it gets to a point that you need to, uh love is a verb, right? It's a doing what you have to do something to say that no more as incentives. And you remember a crown or grade the buffy. Now said as a crown at least encourage a crown and say next time no or obey yeah better, not to yell at them or get upset because a crown am passive. So the main mechanism we should show love, make it visible so that by our crown we should be parents.
Just to quickly piggyback off of what he said in that specific scenario is you can also just lean on the community that you have. Okay, you can't make this one event for your child, but if there's, somebody else that's like, Ghanaian or like, one of our church members that lives close to you, like let them know your child has this recital or whatever so they can go and support. for me, me in high school, I got to the point where I started vocalizing, like, I don't understand why you're here for this. And then my mom would like, ask like Uncle Elijah or somebody else to like come and be there for me. So lean on your community.
I think part of that Nensuno about, I know I said understanding, but I think investing in your child. Daryl brought it up. I think we all brought it up. Investing in your child in the sense of "Yen nyinaa yɛ kɔ adwuma." Nowadays, I think it's just norm where almost every year you go through professional development training, right? And I think say for the most part, once we think we've raised one child, we think we've met the meter and we've done our part and we know how this works. Nobody else can teach us anything about raising our kids, but it's a new world every day, right? And the things that your kids may be going through may be completely different from things that you were even exposed to at that age. We live in the age of the internet. We live in the age of so many different things that you may not realize your child is going through. So if you don't make that conscious investment in your child, as in making sure, say, you're going and learning. If you're not learning about that everyday world now, don't think just because you shelter your child from it, your child is not going to learn about it. Right. And I think so seeing your child as an investment, not necessarily as one that ubetimi akwaji scan it later, no, right? But as an investment, as in when you put a lot of work and money into that, more than the house you're building in Ghana, no shade, but investment in that, you will realize that your child has grown up to be a well-rounded adult. An example that I will give is when you see all those parents that are supporting their kids for like gymnastics and all of that, they'll be like, oh, we moved to a different state because my child wanted to train with this specific coach, or we would drive 12 hours for a meet and all of that. I don't know about you, but I was scared to even ask my parents for a ride for after school programming. I was begging everybody else's parents, hey, can your parents give me a ride? You make sure that if you're joining a club, somebody near you, especially a white kid or the Ghanaian kids, will do a coalition and you get one parent to come pick the rest of y'all up in the neighborhood, you know, and so, and the parent won't attend, they'll just come pick y'all up. And so I think having an emotional, monetary, and all of that investment in your child so that they feel like they love you. When we complain about grades, yes, that child may have an A, I have an B. That child has a father who's an engineer. That child has a father who's helping them with their homework, right? I'm struggling trying to figure this out by myself and help other people. And so sometimes giving grace and being like, okay, what can I do to help? Not just be like, oh, me kwako to tutoring a man or this. Sometimes your kid just wants you to listen to them. Sometimes they just want you to see them. And we may have some crazy ideas, but sometimes try to incorporate some of those ideas into everyday life. And I think, say, honestly, seeing our children as an investment will go a very long way.
Thank you guys for your